This week on the TT Show, we have a massive Xbox leak, an interview with XPG about their upcoming products. The iPhone 15 Pro has been turned into a PS5. Nvidia is already talking about DLSS 10. iPhone 15 Pro has been sawed in half, revealing its true titanium, and much, much more. Let's get into it. Before we get into those news stories, we have to tell you about the massive giveaway powered by XPG. For this week's giveaway, there is going to be 10 separate winners for 10 different prizes. XPG will be covering all shipping costs, so you won't have to worry about that at all. Head down to the description below for more information on finding out how you can win.
Introducing the XPG Battlecruiser 2, the ultimate choice for high-end gamers and modders. If you want to enhance your lighting experience, you can opt for the XPG Prime Box, which creates an immersive gaming environment where you're in complete control. The Battlecruiser 2 supports up to a 420mm radiator at the front, ensuring optimal cooling for your high-end components. Worried about your graphics card's safety? Well, the Battlecruiser 2 comes with an adaptable graphics card holder, offering adjustable height options, and say goodbye to cable clutter with a smart cable management system. Unleash your gaming potential with the XPG Battlecruiser 2 and conquer the virtual battlefield like never before.
Hello, welcome back to the TT Show. My name is Jack Connor. I'm a hardware editor over at TweakTown, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host,
Kosta gaming hardware editor at TweakTown.
How you going, mate?
Going pretty good. It's another big week of news.
Oh, massive. Should we just jump straight into the Xbox stuff? Because I've been chomping at the bit to talk about this.
Yeah, so it's basically the biggest leak in video game history, or I guess has happened in the last week, where massive amounts of documents and unredacted stuff from Xbox's big Activision acquisition stuff that's been going on for forever, and it turns out that it was their own data, their own fault that data got leaked. And basically we got extended internal documents and slides covering Xbox past, present and future and their plans. Some of it's dated for last year, some of them a couple of years before that, but it's just huge amount of data, much information that it's just a lot to go through.
So just because I have purposely stayed unaware of this, of course I saw the headlines and I got super excited, but I didn't dive into it on purpose so we could go into it on the show. Give me the top 5 points from this leak. Sorry.
The top 6 main things that you need to know about the massive Xbox leak. Okay, so number 1, there is a digital Xbox Series X refresh due sometimes next year. It's going to double the internal storage. It's going to be more efficient. It's going to use a new 6nm process node for its hardware. It's going to support Wi-Fi 6 for faster network speed, and instead of the box design, it's going to have a cylindrical design, but no disk drive, and for the same price.
Wow.
Number 2 is that the Xbox controller is getting updated as well. It's going to have haptic feedback like PS5's DualSense controller. It's going to have improved build quality. It's going to have Bluetooth support, so it can support more devices. It's going to have modular thumbsticks, so you can actually pop those off and replace those like you can with the Elite controller. Rechargeable and swappable batteries. And what Microsoft is calling quieter buttons.
I wonder what that means.
Exactly. Number 3, and this is probably a massive one, the next generation Xbox is due for release in 2028 is when they're targeting the next console. And it's going to be a cloud hybrid. We can dig into what that might mean. It's going to use AMD's Navi 5 graphics. Just so we know, we're only on Navi 3 at the moment, so I don't even know if this exists.
Wow.
And they're looking at either Zen 6 processing, or up to Zen 4 at the moment, or an ARM CPU. It's going to have an NPU for AI, dedicated AI hardware, they've already put in the words next-gen ray tracing and AI-based super resolution into the documentation, which is obviously similar to DLSS.
Yeah.
Okay, the fourth big thing is that, which is a fun one, is that an email from Xbox head Phil Spencer talked about his plans or him wanting to buy Nintendo. So basically Xbox to buy Nintendo and just say, look, leave the hardware stuff to us. We know what we're doing. You do you, but you do you under the Microsoft banner.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last week, didn't we?
I think something similar, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the final one is just games, which is obviously the fun stuff with leaks is you get to find out about games. And weirdly, these are all limited to Bethesda games. So one of them is a Fallout 3 remaster. Another one is an Elder Scrolls Oblivion remaster. These are games from the Xbox 360 era. A sequel to Ghostwire Tokyo, which was a PS5 launch exclusive. id Software is apparently working on something called Doom Year 1.
Oh.
And then there's also a new Dishonored game listed. So that's a lot of Bethesda action.
Wow.
And I think that pretty much, yeah, so that's like the top things.
I'm
Top 5, yeah.
super excited for that Doom Year 1 if it exists.
I think so too, yeah. I mean, like just by the title, you would assume that that's a prequel, right? If it's called Doom Year 1.
Yeah, but it's going to be obviously modern with modern graphics, which is going to be bizarre. Surely, if they are going to go back and to like a prequel, maybe they'll have like a classic mode, kind of like. Do you remember when Halo did that, where you could put the original Halo graphics on, and it's just a toggle?
Oh, yeah, I don't think this would be like a remake of the original Doom. I think it's just going to be like a prequel. Like they're just calling it Doom Year 1.
Yeah, but I want them to have that toggle button to make the game look like it's in classic.
Oh, to make it look like like old.
Yeah.
Ep.5.
Yeah.
That would be pretty hilarious.
That would be awesome. So what do you want to jump into here first? Where should we start? Should we start the new console?
Yeah, let's go new console.
All right, let's do it.
All right, let's say Xbox is going to refresh the Series X. So they got the Series S at the moment. It's the Series X and the Series S. So the Series X is the flagship console. It's more powerful. It's got a better GPU in there, and it's got a 4K Blu-ray drive in there, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got the Series S, which is the cut-down version. It's like a 1440p console. It's got the same CPU, but just way fewer GPU cores, and it's all digital. And it's their affordable entry point into the next current generation of hardware. So what makes this refresh interesting is that it's an Xbox Series X refresh, which is their flagship console. So this could mean that it replaces the existing one. And what makes that potentially a bit point of controversy is that they're ditching in the disk drive. So no disk drive. They're going to double the internal storage to 2 terabytes. It's going to have like more features like better Wi-Fi, more power efficient because they're switching to a more a 6 nanometer process node, which probably means they're just going to slim the console. Like, they've done that in the past with PlayStation, where they've just used a more efficient, once the generation's been out for a few years, the cutting edge hardware can be produced on all this, the chips can be produced on smaller process nodes, and then they can release like, the Slim, like a PS4 Slim or PS.
Well, this is a different shape entirely.
Yeah, it's a cylindrical design. It'll most likely be smaller, I think, if it's more efficient and using less power.
Hold on, wait. I just clicked with something. Sorry to cut you off. The Xbox is now cylindrical. The Xbox is now a circle.
I just didn't even put 2 and 2 together until you just.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Who said like that? That's ridiculous.
The circle box.
It's.
What are they doing? Did they mess up?
Why are they called Xbox? They made a cylinder. What? I suppose, like, because it's cylinder, means you don't have to. I mean, if it was cylinder, could you even have a disk drive? I mean, I suppose you could.
Yeah, because a disk is a cylinder.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense.
Just imperfectly.
Yeah, yeah, it would, wouldn't it? But it is funny how they're making a cylinder in the it is called an Xbox.
But like, I mean, like physical media, right? Like, is going the way of it's going extinct, right? So like when it comes to movies, like back when everybody bought DVDs, like, like I had hundreds of DVDs,
Yeah.
an insane amount. Still got them somewhere. And then Blu-ray came out, and then people started, like, physical media was still pretty big then. But as soon as like 4K Blu-rays have come out now, like not many people collect 4K Blu-rays. Like 4K Blu-rays don't sell at the level that DVDs did. And that's because digital streaming is more convenient, right?
Of course.
People aren't interested in collecting or curating their own collection, so to speak. People aren't like nerds or collectors. They kind of like dabbled in it when DVDs were all the rage because they were cheap and affordable. But people just move on to what's the most convenient.
The majority of people do. Of course, there's markets for these realm of collectors.
Like, even now, there's probably data to suggest that game consoles don't need a disk drive. I mean, look at your gaming PC. Does your gaming PC have a disk drive? Like
no, not at all.
DVD drive, whatever. No, because like, to be honest, like they had DVD drives for probably 5 years longer than they needed to, just because that's how most people installed Windows, right? Now you just put the image on a USB stick, right? And that's how you install Windows. So like a PC doesn't need a disk drive, like an optical drive. Like you don't even miss it. You don't even think about it. And there's never a situation where you're going to say, oh, hey, I need that.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that the consoles aren't going to have that. But then you've got to have people that are just going to be upset about not being able to own a physical copy of the game. So you're going to go into a shop, you're going to buy a box, and inside the box is going to be a code.
And you don't technically own that code either. Like you are licensing that. Like you can't. Like there was a I remember a meme. It was between Sony and Xbox, and like it was one of them announced that their console was just going, like, you couldn't put discs in it at all. It was like it was the digital console. I can't remember what generation it was. And then Sony posted a meme. It's like how our PlayStation users can borrow games, and it's like, here you go, and then they just give you the game. It's like you can't.
Yeah, that was for the Xbox One. The Xbox One had a disc drive, but it didn't mean shit really, because it was like, when you put the disc in, it signs it to your account. So now
it's account locked.
So that it locks the game.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah,
because they don't like they didn't like the secondhand market, or they don't want people selling games or whatever.
That's because they weren't making money from it. That's why.
Exactly. Yeah. Because resell value is like no money for them, basically.
And then Sony comes in just with the memes like, here you go.
That was hilarious.
Here you go.
That's how you lend a copy of the game to your friend.
Yeah. No,
this is going to fundamentally shift that anyway, because like, I mean, you can't really, like, you're not borrowing like discs from friends anymore, because like most games you need to be online, and to be online it needs to authenticate the disc in there. That's kind of like why PCs moved away from it, because it's like, well, the disc drive is just being authenticated, or that's like it's not something that affects me personally, because like I download or like get codes for games, or like I have a digital library on Steam, on Xbox and things like that. So, but I think some people will be upset because it is a paradigm shift. So it's basically going to say that Xbox is no longer going to offer like the games stored on like an optical disc.
Yeah, no, it is. It's going to take some getting used to, because you've also got the problem of not everyone's internet is fantastic as well. Yeah, and when you can install majority of your game, or like say the game's 120 gig, or like,
which is us here in Australia, by the way.
Yeah, like, that is us. And it's
if we're okay with it, then you can relax over there and wherever.
Yeah, but I also don't like having to like, say a game drops on a Friday and then I get it and I can't. Luckily on my PC, I can pre-install it. Like sometimes the games don't let you pre-install. So then you get the game comes out on Friday, and I got the digital copy, and now I've got a 120 gig download, and everyone else has got the disc copy. It's like all my friends are playing. Yeah.
8 hours, yeah. And we're kind of used to that, like, because our internet speeds here in Australia are not great.
No, they're not. No, I've got 50 megabit. 50 megabit down.
I think they're upgrading my area to 1 gigabit. But the thing is, like, to get gigabit internet in Australia, like, is available in some areas where they have the fiber, but it's super expensive.
It's so expensive.
You're just paying for it anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, like I think there's going to be some people that are just going to be like, hey, we're against, because the one argument I can agree with is like game preservation, right? Which is the same thing with like Netflix and digital streaming services, right? Let's say you've got like a film from a great director, like, you know, let's say the Coen Brothers movie. They made a movie for Netflix, right? It's like one of their last movies that they've made as a team, right? And it's like, let's say Netflix removes it from their subscription service. Let's say Netflix did not license it to actually get a copy released physically.
Yeah.
Where are people going to see this movie?
Yeah, they can't.
Because it's not preserved, right? Like, you know, like having a physical copy of something means it's got to preserve, right? Let's say like
it means you won't.
Then let's say the entire N64 library was released, or original PlayStation was all digital, and then, you know, they moved on to PS2, and then that's it. They didn't produce those games anymore. Like, you couldn't download them. They'd switched the servers off. How do you get them? And it's a problem because the only way you can get these things is like through people that are illegally backing them up and making those available.
Yeah, that's why all the digital purchases are licenses. They're not they are. You're purchasing a license for the availability of that game, and then they are the controller of when that game is available. There's a lot of TV shows that I wish Netflix kept on their servers that I would like to rewatch or watch again, but aren't up there anymore. They just aren't, and it's like you can't get that anywhere else unless someone has pirated it, and then you got to get it illegally. Which is
like
rough.
The VHS era, yeah. Like a lot of, like, you know, when things were like airing on TV, like, you know, like a lot of people, like I was actually chatting to a friend recently, and he was talking about like the Doctor Who show, right? So like, the BBC, they lost like a whole decade's worth or something of like tapes or some shit.
Oh my god.
Of that series, right? And so what ended up happening was they just asked people around like who has copies, right? So, and apparently a lot of the copies came from Australia, whereas ABC kept all their tapes, or most of them, and then the rest of them were from like people in Australia that would like had taped them on VHS tape from TV.
What?
And then like they obtained like, so like it's like,
wow.
Like people like you don't think about this sort of thing, but like if, you know, if something that shouldn't be erased from history gets erased from history just because it's not being preserved, then that's a problem. And I think like when I bring it back to the Xbox, is that it's not that these games are necessarily going to end up like that, but if you go to a no disc or no physical medium, or it's just all reliant on an account and a server that can be switched off at any point, you know, at least announce that, say that this is how we're going to preserve it. So every release we do is going to be sent a digital, you know, like on a hard drive, or it's going to be stored by this Academy of Interactive Sciences and blah, 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 where it's going to be backed up or whatever.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Just for like that, from that perspective, or just like historical perspective, I think like all this stuff needs to be preserved.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, 100%.
Long-winded sidetrack there.
Okay, so let's go to the new Xbox controller. What else do we know?
Like well, I think I covered it because it's basically just a redesign. So it looks a little bit different. It's looks more like the Elite controller, where it's like the top half is white, the bottom it's got like matte black handles. It's got like removable modular thumbsticks. It's got Bluetooth, better build quality. They say it's rechargeable and removable batteries. They kind of like just didn't even bother with that for the current Xbox controller. They just like third parties either release that stuff, or you just have to use AA batteries.
Yeah.
So they're going back to that, which is good, because like otherwise you just have to keep buying AA batteries. But I think like it's more of a play for them to actually not focus purely on the console. I think them by adding Bluetooth and wireless, but also dual functionality, so you can be paired to multiple devices. Basically shows that they're going to be like they're serious about cloud gaming. So it's going, you know, so you'll be able to connect it to your TV, to your laptop, to your console, and just switch between devices and play games, either directly or via the cloud. Because like as of now, like most people game on Steam with a controller, with an Xbox controller.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's purely because Windows has the inbuilt drivers.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the easiest way to do it. Like it's it's the most ergonomic or well laid out controller
Yeah,
currently available.
you can't.
You can use a PS5
You
controller.
can, but it's not
Yeah.
the button. I think the stock settings on a game on
They by default are usually like
Xbox.
setup.
It's the Xbox
Yeah.
layout, right? So you might have to go around and change some buttons around in
That's
your
right,
in your game, but yeah, Windows has Xbox drivers. That's why it's so easy to just be like, okay, you can actually do it mid game. I've done it when I've been playing look, here we go. Got one here.
Yeah, I think we all do. I got like one of these custom.
Oh, dude, that's sick. I got an Elite, Turtle Beach Elite. Check out the review on TweakTown for that.
I've got so many Xbox controllers. One just too.
But you can do it mid-game. I was playing Apex and I just plugged it in. That one's nice. I love me a white controller. That's so good. Yeah, you can do it mid-game. Just plug the Xbox controller in Apex and it just switches over to
yeah, straight away.
Yeah,
I've
it's
done that
great.
too. It's like you fire up the game and go, oh, I forgot to plug the controller in, and then you plug it in.
Boom.
Done.
Is that everything on the Xbox leak? Do we need?
We'll do the next gen console because this is the
Oh,
big one.
of course.
This
How
is
could I
just what you
forget?
do Theory craft or whatever they call it.
All right.
So they say it's expected in 2028 and it's going to be a cloud hybrid Xbox system, whatever that means.
What does that mean?
They mentioned that they're going to license AMD's Navi 5 graphics,
Yeah.
and that they're looking at either Zen 6 or ARM for the CPU. I think it's going to have a NPU for AI.
What is
and
an
they also
NPU?
mention, good question.
What is an NPU?
Neural processing unit. That's what it is. I know it's
Right.
AI based. I was just thinking, like, what does the N stand for? It's neural. of
Yeah,
course.
okay.
Yeah. It's going to have forward compatibility. I don't even know what that means because, like, all the Xbox consoles have backward compatibility.
What is?
I guess that
What?
forward compatibility probably means this is going to be their last console
What? How does that?
from a certain perspective. So then, like, it'll just be cloud-based after that. It's going to have next-gen ray tracing and AI-based super resolution, which is technology that'll be similar to DLSS. And to be honest, Microsoft is investing heaps in their machine learning super resolution or similar technology. So they have their ML. DXR, which is DirectX ray tracing, that's the API that all these games use.
Yeah.
The DirectX 12 games, so Cyberpunk, etc., etc. It's Microsoft developed it.
Yeah,
but we just
DirectX, Xbox.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's DXR. So we associate ray tracing with NVIDIA because they were first. And that's the power of branding right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's just weird because like the Xbox uses AMD hardware, which is, not as good for ray tracing as NVIDIA hardware. Like I found it interesting that they pushed like in the slide for this next gen console, it says like next gen ray tracing capabilities, like as the first thing, and then machine learning, and basically an NPU AI hardware, machine like AI based super resolution, so DLSS. So they're not stupid in terms of where the cutting edge is in terms of visuals. They definitely want to be right up there. And also what I found interesting was like the wording is that they're going to license Navi 5 graphics, which means that they may just develop their own APIs and their own, which they probably do
Internal,
anyway,
Xbox internally or Microsoft internally.
Yeah. Microsoft internally might develop their own hardware to go with it and stuff like that.
So does that mean that AMD would be dropped out of the? Like, would the Microsoft hardware replace the AMD hardware?
No, I think they'll just adopt their architecture and create their own custom chip.
Right. Okay.
Potentially, for graphics.
Yeah. Navi 5. We're at Navi 3.
We're at Navi 3 right now. So the 7900 XTX is Navi 31. So it's the top Navi 3.
Wow.
So it'll be like 2 more generations from now.
How mad would you be if you were Xbox or Microsoft right now? Do you reckon they're really like? Do you reckon there's like fire alarms going off at HQ, or is this like, it doesn't matter?
Sure, because Phil Spencer released a statement saying, "We've seen the conversation around old emails and documents. It is hard to see our team's work shared in this way because so much has changed and there's so much to be excited about right now and in the future. We will share the real plans when we are ready." Basically, some of these documents are from like 2021, right? Which is a couple of years. And obviously when it comes to like a next-gen console or a console refresh, these things are going to change. But that cylindrical Xbox, there's a picture of it. The new controller, there's a picture of it.
Yeah.
You know, like those seem like they've kind of like been locked in terms of their designs.
Ooh.
So that's why like when he says like, it is hard to see our team's work shared in this way.
It's like that's real.
From his comment, it's like, fuck, this definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely
Oh
caught us.
boy. And and just to clarify, they're the ones that leaked this.
So it was their, fault or whatever case. Like it was the data came from them.
Because I read somewhere when I just did a little light reading on this. I didn't actually go into all of the details that you did. Microsoft went to the FTC and were like, "Why did you leak all these documents?" And then the FTC went, "No, you did this."
Yeah, something like that. Because I think I read something similar where it was like the FTC saying, "Hey, it's not us. Stop blaming us." Like maybe like initial reporting, because the leak happened and then everybody was like, "Oh, the massive data leak from the FTC." And then they were pegged as bad guys. So then maybe they said, "Hey, it's not from us. It was Microsoft."
Right.
Or something like that. Or even I don't think Microsoft said anything for a while, because this is like the sort of thing where a company would just be like, "Oh shit,
it's best to say nothing.
Let's see what the damage is," and then release a statement.
Well, that is very funny. We love a good leak, don't we, Kosta? I think everyone in the gaming industry loves a good leak.
Yeah, and this is like one of the biggest, because there's so much that we haven't even like touched on. Like, I mean, we don't need to discuss it, but like, Fallout 3 remaster, I'm like, like I'll play that. Oblivion remaster for sure. On
Definitely.
Game, which we touched on as well. It's like there's just so much in there that, like, even Derek on TweakTown, who's our main game guru when it comes to the Activision Xbox stuff, like he's talked about like money out of these leaks, in terms of like, how much money Game Pass is making, how much money they expect to make by a certain year. There was some people misrepresenting or taking a section maybe out of context by saying that there's like a wording in there that makes it sound like if Xbox doesn't make X amount by a certain year, they'll just pull out of the gaming business altogether.
Wow.
Which I thought was pretty extreme. But like, there's just so much, and this will be something that will be continue to be talked about for a while, and we probably will touch on it again in upcoming episodes. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, we will see a trickle down of news from this leak, like as people continue to dive through it and look at it from different angles, etc., etc. And we might even have an update from Microsoft themselves on what to expect. But that comment from Phil Spencer seemed a little bit like damage control. That was, I suppose that's what he's trying to do.
Okay, well, with this week's episode of the TT Show, brought to you by XPG and the new Battlecruiser 2 chassis, I had the chance to sit down with Luca Fiore, who's the head of product there at XPG, and we talked about cases, PC trends, community, what's happening in terms of hardware and where things might be going. It's a pretty cool chat, so strap in and have a listen. I'm joined here by Luca Fiore, who's the head of product at XPG, and this week we're featuring the Battlecruiser 2 chassis here on the TT Show. It's XPG's latest and greatest PC case, designed for gamers, modders, those that love the DIY, those that love RGB and style with glass panels and all that stuff. So I thought we'd just dig in and talk about PC case design, the history of that, the look at the Battlecruiser and what goes into it. So, Luca, how are you today?
Thank you. I'm very well, thanks. And first of all, I'm really excited to be at the TT show today. You guys are doing a fantastic job, and I am very, very happy to be here joining you. So hi, Jack. Hi, Kosta. Good to see you guys again.
Thank you.
It's been a while. So thanks for having me.
Let's dig into it. Like a lot of people may not know what goes into designing a PC case, and so there are obviously like a long list of elements that come with something like the Battlecruiser 2 that cover everything from the looks to its functionality, cooling, and stuff like that. I guess like going from your perspective or XPG's side, like how does the design start for the Battlecruiser, and what are some of like the key elements that you and the team worked on?
In the design process, first of all, XPG has its own design language or industrial design language. We call it exoskeleton. And exoskeleton is really about trying to give an XPG flavor to everything that we do. We try very much to balance the design side and the beauty of design with making something that is extremely functional. So we try to strive for the middle of these two major design directions. And there are some specific elements, material colors that we that basically are common to all our products. So you can recognize that it's all the same family of products. They work well together. They look good together. And that's something that we strive a lot to do. To top that off, the Battlecruiser 2, even Battlecruiser in general, is a project designed to showcase modding and DIY type of efforts, right? So obviously this has been a trend for quite a few years, and now you have all the new fish tank type of designs that are very open, very very nice. We actually have launched also a fish tank design. It's called Invader X, which is a phenomenal chassis recently. But Battlecruiser 2 is our main staple into chassis. It's a ground-up design exclusive to XPG. It's a phenomenal undertaking with all these four-sides glasses, so that you really have to have additional cable management functions, for instance. So we also have like a shroud cover that helps you to hide some of the cables from the PSU and so on and so forth. So it's really for people that want to show off their capability. It's a very elegant piece of design with obvious gaming elements like triangles, the play button, which is a very special design element that XPG has. And the key differentiation from the previous generation is this 65 millimeter extra space on the top. And this is really to accommodate the trend that a lot of people now, with the increase of CPU power and GPU power, they need to route the CPU to the top. And then you get this additional space for 360 on top, right? So this is one of the main trends. Even with CPUs becoming more efficient on the core side, you still have additional CPU cores. So that means that your total TDP is increasing anyway.
That's right.
And GPU.
As soon as things become as soon as things become more efficient on the PCU and GPU side, they just push more power through. That's like the way it goes. It's like if it's more efficient, that means we can get more power out of it.
The trend is all in that direction. It's very clear for us, especially with AI coming in and with the additional efforts in GPUs from that perspective. But even on the CPU side, so you really need to have 200 to 220 watts to cool a CPU total TDP, even if it's not running to that, right?
Like especially with the fish tank designs, like you want to look in, you want to see the components, and you want to see the lighting profile, and you want to see the chassis, like the outside and the inside, just all looking great without a clutter of cables everywhere.
Top 10 gaming has always been about bragging rights, right? So you're a 15-year-old kid inviting your school friend to see your 4090. You want them to be able to see through the looking glass, right? And with all the RGB and all the attention that it deserves, with the latest and greatest hardware available. So that's always been one of the greatest things about DIY computer building. So it's a phenomenal part of the experience, and it's you design it the way you want it. So yeah, from that perspective, Battlecruiser is a very very nice, simple, elegant, but yet at the same time, a masterpiece of glass, right? So
I mean, traditionally, like I think, because with GPUs becoming like larger and heavier, and the need for like bracing and different things just to
absolutely.
hold it up. Um, so like the horizontal or the vertical orientation or whatever it is, like when it's facing like that way, that's what I've like just moved towards now, especially with like the 4080s and 4090s and things like that.
Absolutely.
And then you get to like see a different side of it, and like with the Battlecruiser, like being able to support that and have plenty of room for all the radiator stuff
That's
is really cool.
That's true. So in fact, because now the attention is a lot more to motors, right? We even added a GPU holder.
Yeah.
And the GPU holder is actually done in two sections, so you can go 52 to like even 134 millimeters on the.
Right.
And one of the things that I want to share with you also in the design process is when we actually started Battlecruiser 2, we really thought about social listening a lot. So the process was really, where can we improve, right? And so we went on all the Amazon reviews, we went online to our Discord server, Reddit, and so on and so forth. And we really tried to find every single comment of customers saying, this is nice, but I would have liked to have more space on the top. This is nice, but I want better cable management. This is great, but I want better RGB control, right? And so this is where all the innovation and all the changes came from. And it's kind of nice if you think about it. We do a lot in XPG. Once we have a good product out, we ask our community for help, right? So we want to hear what people more of or less of, and we try to deliver exactly that.
That's awesome, because the DIY scene and the modding scene is very much community driven. If you got, especially like when we met up at Computex, but then like just walking through the show floor when you see like all these DIY modders like putting brands working with different case modders, and you're seeing all these just crazy designs. But then I guess like from it, what I want to ask is that engaging with the community and for that with the Battlecruiser too.
Actually, I have some stories. Sorry for cutting you in. Actually, some of our PMs are very active in the community, and that's one of the things that makes our product better. Even myself, actually, I go in these guys every night on Discord, try to see what type of problems people face, and try to help people over. So that's we are active. It's pretty funny. So sometimes interacting with customers, it's nicer if you do it on a community level like that, right?
Because like the design or the physical look is like one aspect, but then the other key component is cooling, especially for a case, is cooling and airflow. So when your designers are coming up with like a case that looks amazing, how do you ensure that it's also going to be able to not, become like a sauna or something like that, where it's just going to overheat?
Well, I mean, obviously, we do a lot of thermal design and thermal testing during the conceptual phase of the product, and so we actually have all our thermal products, the Levante 360 coolers, the 320s. We have a new generation called Levante X with the latest generation pumps. We have different type of different categories of fans. From the high end, we have our Vento Pro family with Nidec partnership, which is very solid. We're really going to the high end level with that one, but we also have the standard Vento fans, which is with no PWM, that we have Hurricane with PWM, etc. So we try everything, right? We try from entry level fans to mid layer, which is what have been shipping in our product, and then the very high end as well. Right? Obviously, that's actually one of the tricky parts to decide when you ship a chassis, because obviously people expect to have at least a few fans mounted in the system. We're using 4 RGB Vento fans, 120 on this platform, included for free when you purchase the product. Obviously, people may or may not change them depending on their taste and depending on
Yep.
what type of thermal airflow design that they're building on. But that's part of what we're doing in the standard part of design.
It's cool that because that you're testing with entry level fans, high end fans. Because if all you do is create an amazing case and it's just got the absolute best components only, and you don't test with everything, or not best, but the most expensive or the most premium or the largest radiators and things like that, and you're not testing with a wide range of gear, then you're not really going to know how its performance or how it's a better picture of its thermal performance.
Obviously, on top of that, you also have the challenges that normally consumers will not think about, like the supply chain of things. Manufacturability is one question, tooling sizes. When you prepare the mechanicals, you also have to consider shipping. And so from a shipping perspective, obviously chassis are massive. You need to consider how many container, how much space you're going to give to the box so that it passes drop tests. That's standard supply chain management and safety management that needs to be done on top.
The one thing that everybody does see though is RGB lighting. Now, over the past decade, I think when RGB started becoming mainstream in PC building, there might have been an initial pushback by some, but now it's ubiquitous, and because you can customize it to look however you want it to look. So sometimes I just go for a subtle sort of a white dull light where it kind of looks like this cool I guess, or like a cool building, or like a cyberpunk theme or something like that. And then you can have the super bright, spinning rainbow lighting and things like that, depending on what you want. And obviously the ARGB lighting system in XPG products and the Battlecruiser 2 accommodates for that. But there are challenges for adding RGB now because everybody's doing it and there's no one way to do it. And because PC building is DIY and it is a matter of supporting so many different components and people being able to mod their own things. How do you approach even just making that side of things easy for people?
Absolutely, and that was actually one of the other aspects where we had to take a page from customers' needs. Battlecruiser 1 has a built-in small, simple, rotating click type of mini RGB controller built into the board. But for the high-end modders, we actually have included now what we call the Prime box. Prime is our software ecosystem. XPG has been working on this for a few years now. That's something that we're incredibly proud of because we have put a lot of thought behind it. And Prime box is really this amazing capability. It's basically an RGB controller plus fan controller built into one. So you have 4 fan interface to control.
Right,
if you
awesome.
want, daisy chain as many as you like, and individually place them. So in the design, you can actually individually place them in the chassis. You can basically design your thermal flow on the system and kind of have an idea on how it's going to end, controlling them individually or per groups. And also on top of that, you have obviously the RGB control. And so Prime boxing is incredibly powerful. We can actually manage 4 independent channel up to 120 LEDs per channel. And that is a capability of each and every single LED. So you can address, out of 480 LEDs, you can address any single LED to do whatever you like. We have one portion of the design which is called Canvas, which will list each and every LEDs independently of all your ecosystem. So if you have an XPG mouse, keyboard, and a Prime box, you really can design them into space and kind of synchronize them together or work together for other purposes. And you're right, there is no proper standardization for that. Microsoft has been trying forever, but it's very limited the approach that they're taking. And the real reason is really because there is a level of complexity of different protocols, different hardware requirements. And so it's really up to the vendors to push like a family intake where everything gets under the same level of protocol. This is one of the most difficult things to do in PC business. And we're happy to have our own system if customers want to use it. So
it's not just a case of like hardware at the moment. Even when something like, like if you look 15 years ago or maybe even 20 years ago, I don't know how long, but like a PC case wouldn't be something that you would even think about integrating with software, let's say. Like, fans with software really. It was like maybe stuff at the motherboard level, like you would go into the BIOS like ages ago and then change like a fan profile here and there. But now, like, obviously it's not available everywhere, but like, something like the Battlecruiser with a Prime box or having that sort of integration of hardware and smart software is always great to see. There's obviously a lot more that's happening in the PC hardware space that needs to be factored in, or that potentially might be factored in when it comes to a case design or whole full system design that we're not aware of. New PSU standards and other things like that. What has XPG kind of like noticed in the last couple of years or even recently as where things might be heading, and how do you factor that into when you're designing products?
some of the new trends are like Back to the Future is something that has been on our radar. It's definitely an interesting story, although very China centric, but it's kind of going around. Obviously,
I think that's going to be global. For people that may not be aware, like Back to the Future it's basically a way to factor in cable management into hardware design. So what that means is that for a GPU, and we've seen examples from Asus, like so the GPU will have the power fed through the motherboard, and then on the underside of the motherboard is where you'll have like PCIe power coming in, the new ATX3 power, the 12-volt power coming into the underside of the motherboard. And then basically, so like the whole idea is that you see your PC with the GPU, with the CPU, and you're not going to see any cables. Like the only thing you'll probably see is the cooling, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's correct. So we do try to factor in, obviously still on the motherboard side is still very early stage. So we try to factor in some of the space, although obviously there is no specific standard. So things may change in the future. So we will keep adjourning ourselves as the movement progresses. But that's a clear statement. We also talked about the shroud cover for the PSU. Obviously, with the PSUs having all these new cables, that's an important element piece. And on the PSU level, that's also another new trend, right? Because everything in the market this year had this massive shift, transition to ATX 3.0. And there is a phenomenal shift in the PSU market. Basically, the whole market rebooted. And we have taken this very seriously. We actually have a very important lineup family for ATX 3.0. We started with a showcase in Fusion. You tried Computex, our Zeus, Project Zeus with one power supply running 4 GPUs, right? With our titanium level power supply.
That was
crazy showcase, but it's the best full digital power supply titanium space in the world, right? Collaboration with Delta. Then we going down, we have our Platinum, we have our Cyberpunk 2, which is also great for the new connectors, the 600 watt 12 high power connectors. And then we have our staple in the gold space, Core Reactor 2, we just refreshed it. We also have it up white to match with the white builds, and that's
there's
really
a
high-end gold, fully modular type of design. And for people that want gold, because now gold is another trend, right? In power supply, everybody tends to go more on the gold side for obvious reasons, because being less impactful on the environment, saving energy, etc., is important. And so, that's a phenomenal part. And we also did a Kyber product, which is more towards the SI type of builds, but it's also available for normal customers. And so that's our native cable type of a solution for gold, which allows to cut some of the cost of the additional connectors. So you can see how it actually all builds up with all our products. In fact, one thing I want to share with you is the naming convention that we with XPG products is very particular. You can see all our chassis, for instance, are references to mainly to StarCraft 2 type of vessels, Battlecruiser, Invader.
Is that where it
Yes,
comes
that's
from?
where it
Like
comes
StarCraft
from.
2?
Pylon,
The
once
Pylon,
built
yeah,
for
yeah.
power
How do I not know that?
That's
It's like one of my favorite
yeah,
games
and so
of all time. Yeah, StarCraft and StarCraft
Pylon
2.
is our
Love it.
bronze
Yeah.
power supply, right? Kyber is from Star Wars, the Kyber,
Yeah, the Kyber
the Kyber
crystal.
crystals.
This is so nerdy. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
And so and that's for power supplies are power sources. Like you have the Pylon, so Pylon is the power source for the in StarCraft 2, right? And then you have obviously Cybercore, core reactor. You see they're all power sources, right? And then you have Xenia and Prime. Xenia is our lineup of laptops, and Prime is our ecosystem. But Xenia and Prime are actually characters in our brand story, and that's one of the
Yes,
very
yeah.
interesting thing about XPG on the way we actually created our own identity. So that's something we're very proud of.
XPG was established by a data. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. A data, and
Yes, correct.
that's and so AData is like known for memory and being on that side, but XPG is a different thing because it's I guess it's gamer focused, right?
That's correct. So ADATA is actually a big conglomerate. It's a company that is famous for memory and SSDs, but actually it does other things. We have an automotive division that does trikes and electric motors. They do also powertrains and other things. It's pretty amazing. We have a company that does global positional system tracking. It's called A-Track. We have Lee, it's a biotech company. Actually, we try to work internally together with the biotech companies. That's actually how we created our Mana chewing gum. We added it's gaming chewing gum that has lutein and caffeine added in specific ways so that it gives you a kick when you're playing for long hours, and also helps with your eyes because of the lutein content, right? And the thing is, ADATA created XPG in 2008. It was the time where everybody was building their own gaming divisions. It's a time when Dell acquired Alienware, HP acquired Voodoo PC, which became the NV lineup, which became then Omen. Omen was actually coming from there, and so on and so forth. And HyperX was coming out that time, and so ADATA created XPG, Extreme Performance Gear, because it was obviously the high-end memory and the high-end type of components, and that's part of our name and our goal, right? But over the year, because we were only components that were adjacent to other brands, so we kind of had a very subdued type of identity. And then 2018 came over, and that's when we decided to make a full business unit specifically dedicated on expanding every aspect of the gaming lifestyle experience, right? And so this is really what XPG became a story that it's not only related to cellular components on the mid to high end, right? But we really wanted to create something that looks at the gamer, put the gamer in the center, and provides you a proper lifestyle experience. So that's why you see things like lifestyle products like this, and also to create a stronger element of identity. One of the things that we looked at is really our customer base and us ourselves as customers as well. So that's where we decided to have our anime. So the ACG anime comics gaming are like the psychographics, the level of thinking of our base customers, like, and they're very adjacent. There's, you go to Comic-Con, you go to a gaming show, you're a gamer, your identity based on that, right? And so we really thought about, we don't want to just be a memory brand for the top segment, but we really want to create
or just three letters, like, you don't like, but like from my perspective, like the way I see it, and I think it's awesome, is because it is a lifestyle, right? Like if you're putting together like a PC, like a gaming rig, in 2023 and you're serious about gaming, you're going to want to showcase all of it, and it's all you want it to be. It's going to be fun. It's like it's the centerpiece of the room, right?
Correct.
It's not just a keyboard. It's not just a PC case. It's not just a GPU. Like it's everything. Like it's not even a system fan anymore. You know, it's all more than that.
You see, like you have your League of Legends poster behind your bed, and you have your main rig with all the characters and so on. It's you now have anime on TV, on Netflix, etc., that are going in that direction, and they're becoming very popular. The Super Mario movie was like amazing, right? Every kid has watched it and over again. It's a lifestyle, and that's where we as a company believe that we need to have our own story to tell. And that's where we decided to actually create this story. Simon Chen, our CEO on the data side, actually is also been very invested in creating this fantastic story where we have our ambassador, Mera, which you see is so sweet next to me, sending me hearts. And she's like the quintessential gamer. And we really created all these characters like the goddesses. So Prime is our software ecosystem, but she's also the, basically the wise god. Then we have Xenia, which is a god of war, but it's also our lineup of notebooks and so on and so forth. So we have this personification of characters and brand mixing together. And they're built into a story that is a fabulous story. We got a lot of people giving it put together, and then we have a fantastic writer that has been sending the story out and preparing the story. We are now publishing the third chapter of the book. There is actually a series of books that we have been writing internally. We have published 4 comics that are available on our website and also on some major comic distribution. We have 3 episodes that tell the story of Mera, this quintessential 16-year-old gamer that has to deal with kidnapping of her sister, and then has to fight the evil empire, save the world, and so on and so forth. We're having a lot of fun.
What's on the cards for XPG that you can talk about in terms of products? Is there like things coming later this year to be excited about next year, or when can we see some more cool stuff from XPG?
Let me hide the prototypes. No, apart from jokes,
the prototype was there the whole time.
We do have we have some exciting stuff being ready for CES. So I'll have to say,
CES, yeah.
I'll have to say, come to CES and check out by yourself what we have in store. We're going to have a blast at CES. We are bringing many innovation, many new categories of products. This is an intense year. We just finished going through our budgeting exercise, our roadmap exercise with all our sales. It's going to be an exciting 2024.
Okay, we hope you enjoyed that XPG interview. We're going to be doing a few more different kinds of interviews along that style, where we'll be talking to brands about their new products coming out. So if you do have a favorite brand that you would like us to talk to, make sure you comment that down below. And now we're going to get into more stories, more news stories. So if you've been paying attention, the iPhone 15 has dropped, and what we're going to concentrate on for this story is the iPhone 15 Pro and its titanium. So if you follow any of the technology reviewers on on YouTube, you've probably come across Jerry Rig Everything, and this guy he puts everything to the test. He tears stuff apart. He finds the strength of the glass, the back panels, the chassis. He takes out the camera, basically destroys the new phone, but it is awesome, absolutely awesome to watch. So what he did is cut an iPhone 15 Pro in half to find out how much titanium actually is in the iPhone 15 Pro. Apple has been marketing the iPhone 15 Pro as like a titanium-based iPhone. It's the first for them, and Jerry Rig Everything cut it in half. and he found that it was 1 millimeter of titanium and 1 millimeter of aluminium, which is equivalent to about $30 worth of titanium. So every time you buy an iPhone 15 Pro or the Pro Max, which is what he was testing, you're getting about $30 worth of titanium.
Thinking of opening a titanium store by just buying iPhones and reselling the titanium.
Yeah, melting them down. But these videos are awesome. These teardowns are great. It's awesome to see the engineering. He pulls out the PCB from the back of the iPhone, and it's incredible that the 15 Pro and everything that occurs within that phone is just on a board no bigger than your thumb.
That's crazy.
And it's like
3 nanometer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely impressive, the level of engineering that has gone into these devices. There is a plethora of different screws. It is chaos in there, but he gets through it. And yeah, definitely go check out his videos if you enjoy teardowns. He even pulls out the camera of the iPhone 15, which has the tetraprism, and he shows how the light bounces around inside of the newly designed lens. It's really interesting. Another iPhone story, just really quick, because that was, you get 1 millimeter of titanium. That's it. About
1 millimeter of aluminium.
Another is a YouTuber has taken an iPhone 15 Pro, utilized the USB-C port through a USB-C to DisplayPort cable, plugged it into the back of his TV, connected a PS5 controller, and started to play Resident Evil.
Because it's the PS5 controller has Bluetooth, which is, Xbox controllers are getting sometime next year according to the leak. But yeah.
That is interesting. Resident Evil, wait, was it...
Resident Evil
Village. Yes, it was Village.
Yeah.
And the resolution that he was playing at was 1560 by 720, so not quite 1080p, locked at 30 FPS, and judging by, judging by the footage, the game is looking smooth. It is looking great. Like, I was very impressed by the footage. I'm just checking out the video now. It doesn't look stuttery. It doesn't look like anything is like tearing, or it does look locked. It looks low FPS, and it does look a little...
Those visuals, though, like for a phone.
It's a phone.
Kind of crazy. Yeah.
Like I was saying, all of what you're seeing on that screen is occurring on a board no bigger than your thumb.
And it's a few levels above Candy Crush.
The Apple said, all of this is coming from the newly designed A17 Pro chip. But I have heard I've yet to write some stories on this.
This is an expensive bit of hardware though, right? Like, it was fun to say like, hey, he's turned it into a PS5, because it's like connecting it to a TV, got a PlayStation DualSense controller, and it's just like you're playing on a console. But like, if you were to buy the 15 Pro outright, it's more expensive than the PS5.
Oh, for sure. Way more expensive. But also, you can't, I don't think you can charge your phone unless you're charging it wirelessly.
Oh, right. So, yeah.
Because you're doing display out, you can't charge your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unless you're doing like a wireless MagSafe kind of setup, then maybe. I'm not sure. I would like to test it. It could be fun. The A17 Pro chip, I have been seeing headlines of it actually being really power hungry, and I was going to go get the new phone. I was going to go get the 15 Pro Max, and then I started seeing these headlines of it's just chewing through power during its active phases, not when it's in standby mode. So standby is, I got an iPhone 12 Pro Max. Standby mode is kind of iffy for me. Like, I'll lose about maybe 20%, 15% overnight, given my battery health is like 81%. It's, it's taking a hit. It's an iPhone 12.
Yep.
the standby mode in the A17 Pro chip is really impressive from what I've been reading. Like, you might drop no less than 5% overnight. But during the day, when you're actually using it, you're chewing through that battery, which is, it's kind of put me off a bit. Like, obviously the battery is going to be better than what I have now, but
Is it that, like, just in like day-to-day use though? Like, if you're just like listening
Yeah.
to podcasts, like the TT show, for example,
yeah,
or
on Spotify
taking
and
photos,
on Spotify and everywhere else you find podcasts. Yes.
all your favorite podcast services.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is not heavy usage. It's just day-to-day usage. It just drains the battery.
Yeah. Yeah. And people are attributing it to the new chip. I don't know.
Right.
I think it's still much too early to get a definitive answer on that. Like, we need a more data from different sources as well, because I've also seen headlines where the iPhone 15 Pro Max has beaten the S23 Ultra in a battery test. So it's like, well, why am
believe?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm seeing conflicting arguments, and they both, like, seeing these two stories running at the same time just stop me from running out and getting the phone. But I desperately need that phone. It's so good. It's so good.
There's only one way to find out about the battery.
Oh.
One definitive way.
Yeah, Apple, send me an iPhone.
Just to get one.
Yes. But how awesome is this? That we're seeing AAA titles running on mobile now through a
This is crazy,
USB-C port.
Yeah, because you got Assassin's Creed Mirage coming, and also Resident Evil 4. It's so cool that it's running natively too.
Yeah, it's bizarre. All from a phone. Like, yes, it's not 1080p, and look, if it was doing 1080p at 30 FPS, it'd be doing what the Nintendo Switch does for most games from a mobile. Mobile.
Resident Evil Village is not going to be running on the Switch looking like this.
You don't think?
No, because the Switch. I mean, is Resident Evil Village on the Switch? I don't even think it is.
No. I mean, that is Capcom, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they work pretty closely with Nintendo. Maybe it is
on the Switch.
It is?
Oh no, it's cloud for the Switch.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
So it's not available here. So it's like one of those releases where we stream it basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They'd have to cut it down. Like, there's certain games like The Witcher 3 is on the Switch, right? And the Switch version doesn't look anywhere near as good as the Xbox or PS5
Oh, of
version.
course,
It doesn't look anywhere near as good as the PC version, of course. But the fact that they got it running at all at around 30 FPS at 720p, whatever, is an achievement.
Yeah.
But I think that's why you're not going to get Mirage running on a Switch as good as it looks like here on the 15 Pro.
Yeah.
But again, obviously this is like cutting edge tech. Like what's exciting about this is that it means that at some point this is going to be an everyday thing, right? So a decade from now, most phones will have this power.
Yeah, I wonder what the performance would be if it wasn't doing display out, like if it was just running on the phone itself. Like, could we hit 60 FPS?
It'll be the same. No, it'll be the same.
You think
It'll
it'd be
just look
exactly
better
the same?
because the pixel density is not as big as it would be on a TV. It'll just look better. Like at that size, 720p is fine. But that's what people don't realize. Like it switches 720p, or the ROG Ally is 1080p. I think. Yeah, like that. You wouldn't want an 8-inch screen or 6-inch, 6 to 8-inch screen to be more than 1080p.
Yeah.
Because the pixels are so close at that point that unless you're that's why if you got a 65-inch TV, yeah, you want 4K.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because you don't want to stretch 1080p across 65 inches.
Yeah, exactly right. Whereas that on a phone is going to look crisp and smooth, and you don't need anything more than that.
Yeah. Well, that is all I had on the iPhone. What would you like to flex into next?
Let's go to DLSS Corner with your host Kosta.
All right. The professional in, what is this? Fake frames? Isn't this what they call fake frames? So what all the kids are saying these days?
DLSS and its fake frames. It's AI pretend.
Yeah.
So basically, there was a recent roundtable hosted by Digital Foundry, where Brian Catanzaro, the vice president of applied deep learning research at NVIDIA, super nerd extraordinaire, was talking about DLSS, and I guess like the big takeaway is, I mean, he mentioned DLSS 10, but obviously he wasn't talking about it in terms of like a roadmap or a release date.
Yeah.
But he said that, you know, at some point when we get to, let's say, DLSS 10, what's going to happen, at least from the way he envisions it, is that a neural network will handle the entire rendering process. So what does that mean? So like, yes, if a game's got art and textures and whatever else, like you could theoretically just code, like, you know, like a model can be created, and whatever the case is that like a scene will just be like in text or whatever the case is, and then the AI renderer will just like render the whole scene, including add environment detail, add more detail, add ray tracing, and this and that.
That is wild.
And, which is wild to think of, because it's like, what? But the thing is, like, imagine, I mean, when they announced frame generation, that was pretty wild, right? It was like, what's going on here? Like,
what are these fake frames?
Like, but the AI is exactly the fake frames. The AI is generating entire frames out of nothing. But he cited a demo that they did back in 2018, where it was a real-time demo, and there's a video in the news article that you can watch, that basically it was a driving demo. So the game engine, so what was coded in was basically to say, like, here's where the objects are located and here's what's happening. Let's say it's like a real-time, it's just like a real-time, let's say, traffic simulation, where it's like telling you these are the cars that are on the road. Like this type of car, this is where we are, this is the location, and this is what's happening every second.
Yeah.
And what happened from there was that the AI would generate the entire scene, would render it in 3D based on the data.
Yeah, I'm watching it now. It's incredible.
But for 28, he basically, so Brian goes in the roundtable, goes, getting that to run in real time in 2018 was kind of a visionary thing. The image quality that we got certainly wasn't anything close to Cyberpunk 2077. But I think long term, this is where the graphics industry is headed. We will be using generative AI more and more for the graphics process. The reason for that is going to be the same as it is for every other application. We're able to learn much more complicated functions by looking at huge data sets that we can by manually constructing algorithms from the bottom up. And this is where we get into a little bit of a controversial statement, but not really, because we've seen in DLSS 3.5 in our breakdown that it looks better than native because of the AI denoiser or the rate reconstruction that it's using. And so he basically says that, yeah, the DLSS 3.5 makes it look more beautiful than native rendering. And the reason for that is AI. So he's saying that AI is basically giving you a better image quality than native rendering. Now, this is where we're at. And this is obviously controversial because the way we understand rendering is that, you know, is just traditional. Like, you know, I'm not an expert, but you've got like everything is hard coded in terms of like the lighting, the scene, the models, and the GPU just like crunching like where everything should be and rendering it exactly how it is.
Yeah.
Whereas when you add DLSS and AI or, you know, generative AI like frame generation, you're filling in the gaps basically.
Yeah, it seems
using AI to fill in the gaps. Even like basic DLSS, which is everybody now is considered standard. It's like, well, why wouldn't you have it? It's, you know, but AI is creating detail. It's taking a 1080p image and making it 4K, and you're calling it 4K now.
Yeah,
so it's like you could say that's fake 4K.
I think it's got to be a mentality shift here, where we're at the stage of DLSS. Oh, I hate getting stuck on that word. DLSS. We're at the stage where it is getting as good, if not better, than native in terms of visual fidelity. So there's going to have to be a mentality shift with people that were hating on these technologies from when they were first announced, calling them fake frames, to them seeing them as utilities for their games. They need to see them as like, I should turn this on because it's going to make my game look better.
See an example.
Yeah, it's going to make my game look better. It's going to give me more performance at zero cost.
It makes the impossible possible, right? Because like raw hardware power isn't there yet. If you look at Cyberpunk 2077 right now, because update 2.0 is out and Phantom Liberty is out now. On PC, if you're running the RT overdrive mode, which is a full path tracing, fully ray traced image, which is nuts to think that's even possible for a game like Cyberpunk. If you run that natively in 4K on a GeForce RTX 4090, right? No DLSS at all, just the full path traced version, RT overdrive. It's going to run at like maybe 15 frames per second, if you're lucky, or 15, 20 frames per second, right? Okay, so it's basically a tech demo at that point. So
Yeah.
like, this is where games could look at
Could
some
be.
point. Yeah, but then you add DLSS super resolution. You add frame generation. You add DLSS 3.5, which improves the image quality of the RT overdrive ray tracing. It makes the reflections look crisper. There are some people pointing out some bugs in terms of like some ghosting, but like with other versions of DLSS, these things will be ironed out and things like that. But you put that next to native, right? And you got this native image that's rendering at like sub 20 FPS. And then you look on the right and you've got this DLSS powered version that looks better, that's running at like 80, 90 FPS. And it feels smooth because of reflex and all this other low latency stuff they got going on. And when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, well, the only way you can play a game that looks that good and experience it with that visual quality is with these sort of AI-based technologies.
Yeah. It's getting to the point.
That, like,
sorry, you go.
Sorry, I was just going to say, like, it's 3 years since Cyberpunk came out, basically. And now with this update, it's still the best-looking PC game, most technically advanced and best-looking and most visually impressive PC game by far.
Without
like
mods.
Maybe you might, you might find the art direction better in something else, and that's fair enough. You might say, like, oh, I think Baldur's Gate 3 looks better because of
I was going to say GTA 5 fully modded.
Even fully modded GTA 5. But like in terms of what this is doing, like nothing comes close.
Yeah. No, in the terms of it, from the technical perspective, and from the implemented technology that has gone into this game, for sure, Cyberpunk takes the crown in that regard, 100%. This is phenomenal. I'm really, really hoping that this mental shift happens quickly. I mean, I think it will, because gamers want their games to look as good as possible. They might not appreciate the inner workings of DLSS and how it actually is all working, but they would just look up what is the best settings for me to put my game on, and they will all just start recommending putting on the DLSS if it has it.
Yeah, and you don't even need to even know what it is or what it does, right?
Yeah, you just need to put it on.
We were talking about the Switch getting DLSS, and if you look at anybody that is a Nintendo super fan, and there are a lot of Nintendo super fans out there.
Yeah, I'm one.
And like, you go, oh, like they'll be like, oh, they may only know Nintendo consoles and they don't really game on a PC.
Oh.
But they know DLSS. They go, oh yeah, I've heard of that. Like the Switch is going to get that. Oh yeah, that means games are going to run in 4K super fast.
That's exciting.
DLSS. That's exciting, and that's all most people need to know as well. Like, oh yeah, games can run at a higher resolution and faster because of this.
Yeah, no, I like that we're at this point.
Yeah,
it's very
like
good.
It levels the playing field. Yeah,
it's very good. Did you have anything else on that story, or should we hop, skip, and jump to the next one?
No, I mean the final thing was that like Nvidia is kind of. They acknowledge that people modding games to add DLSS is very cool.
I like that they like that
because it's that easy to do. That they've developed the technology that's super easy to put into games.
I like that they aren't upset about that. If that was Nintendo, for some reason, all of these modders would be in court.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there'd be takedowns and no chance.
Yeah. Nintendo, get your together.
Hey, Jack, remember when episode, I think it was 1 or 2, where you
Yeah.
talked about you went hands-on with a Samsung Odyssey Neo G95 57-inch dual 4K, 8K, 240 hertz beast monitor?
I do remember that. That was an awesome, awesome episode. And that was an awesome
And-
experience.
And you were like, I don't understand why they were running Radeon cards.
Yeah.
But then outside of the fact that they were running games stretched and not at the actual aspect ratio.
Yeah, that was
the reason
good job,
is
Samsung.
that the GeForce RTX 4090 cannot live up to the Samsung Odyssey G9 Neo monitor because it can't output the full signal at 240 hertz on the
Okay.
display.
So let's dive into this. So we're talking about an 8K monitor here. This 8K?
Now,
No,
I
it's not.
posted this news, and a lot of people in the comments, and I've seen it everywhere, is that it's not true 8K because it's not 8K vertical and horizontal. It is
Yeah.
8K ultra wide, right? It's dual 4K,
Yes.
so like it may not be the full vertical, whatever. Like it's not a 16:9 8K, but it's essentially 8K.
Yeah, well-
where it is because it's two 4K monitors. Like let's just say we'll just call it 8K.
It is. Yes. It is 8K. It's 8K. It's 8K
Come at me if
long
you don't
ways. Come at me. Do you know what? Right, hold on. Just a sidebar. This is a pet peeve of mine. Is when my normie gamer friends call 1440p 2K.
Oh yeah, whereas 1080p is 2K.
Yeah, it really bothers me because they think it's like 1080p, 2K, and then 4K. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's 1440p. It's not.
I don't think I've actually, yeah.
It's not
I don't
2K.
think I've actually heard that.
You've never heard someone call 1440p 2K?
No, this is all like anyway because like if you look, because like 1080p is HD,
Yeah.
1440p is QHD,
Mm-hmm.
and then
4K is UHD.
UHD, right?
Yeah.
But then if it's ultra wide and it's like like the 4K kind of
It's
like but with the
UW.
less, yeah, UWHD,
HD.
but it's not may not have the exact same. Like we're saying, we're like not. That's why this is like it is 8K because it's what do you want to call it, like UHD WY whatever, like acronym, just because that's what they call it.
Monitored
Like,
branding and
all-
naming sucks already. We don't need that.
just call it what it is.
It's
Yeah.
just dual 4K. It's 8K. Okay. All right. It's fine.
All right,
Do you know
let's
what's
get
not
back into
fine?
the-
That 4K, that you can't run 8K with a 4090, the world's most powerful graphics card.
Yeah. So NVIDIA's let me bring it up. So like their official specifications for the 4090, right? So like this monitor didn't exist when they wrote the specs for the 4090, which is fair enough. So this is why what basically says the specs for the 4090 list the maximum capabilities. They can run 4 independent displays at 4K 120 hertz using DisplayPort or HDMI 2.1.
Mm.
You can run 2 independent displays at 4K 240 hertz or 8K 60 hertz with DSC using DisplayPort or HDMI. So I think it's just the specific configuration of this monitor that it's just not factored into the design of the 4090's display output and like how it handles the multiple display outputs. Because if you can run 4 displays at 4K 120, surely you'd be able to do that would add up to a single 8K 240 hertz.
Yeah, definitely. What I was thinking, I wonder if this person tested. Is it 2 display ports into the back of the? I can't remember the back of the Neo 9, or is it? Or is this all off one?
It's all off one, right? So apparently, like I think it's come from like it's South. So obviously, Samsung being a Korean company, so
Yeah.
it's based off like reviewer hands-on in Korea. So like they list like all the GPUs. So basically, the only cards that can handle it is the Radeon 7000 series because it has DisplayPort 2.1. Sorry, because the GeForce 40 series, and the 4090 is still using DisplayPort 1.4. So the new
right.
DisplayPort spec has enough bandwidth to handle that signal. And even though HDMI 2.1 on both cards is the same sort of bandwidth, which is like 48 gigahertz or whatever, but you can still hit the full resolution over HDMI on the Radeon 7000 series, the RDNA 3 cards, which you can't on the GeForce's HDMI signal. And that comes down to being some sort of issue with how like the GeForce card sets up its display outputs.
Yeah, because when I was testing graphics cards, we were using an 8K display, and for that 8K display to work, and this was on the 20 series, we had to run two DisplayPort 1.4s into that monitor.
Oh, to get the right bandwidth.
No, to get 8K at 60 or any or above at all. So this is all off.
Yeah, because the HDMI 2.1 you can get 8K 60.
Yeah,
that's
so
where it tops out.
I wonder if this person tested, or even if the Neo G9 has two DisplayPort 1.4s. 2.1s. And can you even do that?
I don't know, to be honest. But the thing is, like,
you should be able to do that.
You should be able to, yeah.
That should be fine.
Like maybe they could do a driver update and then it'll support it.
Yeah.
The thing is that this is a super expensive display that 5 people in the world.
Yeah, 5.
Have.
Yeah.
The thing is, those 5 people will probably have 4090s.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, if you're buying this monitor, you will likely have a 4090 or close to it.
You're limited to 8K, that 7680 by 2160 resolution at 120 hertz, which, to be honest, is like, this is like the silly region anyway, because this is fun to talk about, but it's like moot because you're not going to be running any game at that resolution and that frame rate unless it's like a
RuneScape.
Yeah, like even then, I don't even know. Like these engines top out at some point.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, no,
like
you're
not going
right.
to be running like anything at that sort of resolution frame rate, but maybe you will.
I don't know. Maybe you've got your own little game that you're playing or something like that. I don't know. It's a monitor for a graphics card that doesn't exist.
That's what you said. Yeah. That's right. In your hands-on, and when we talked about it.
It is.
And now we've got the definitive proof.
Yeah, it literally doesn't work on the most powerful graphics card ever. It actually doesn't work. See, predictions on this show do come true. This is why you should stay tuned to the TT show. Yes, we test products that they can't be powered by anything. They can't be powered at all. Yeah, that is an interesting story. That is funny. I'm sure they'll roll out a driver update now that this is gone public, and yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm sure it's just a compatibility thing. It's not a like a hardware.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for all those poor Neo G9 owners out there.
Yep. Alrighty, what should we move on to next? We have... Oh, there's still so much more to talk about. Still got the NASA thing. You want to do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so in my neck of the woods, NASA has made history by landing a valuable asteroid. Samples have safely landed back on Earth. So NASA has touched down in the Utah desert with its OSIRIS-REx mission, which was a spacecraft that it sent to asteroid Bennu. And it floated over to the asteroid, touched down on its surface. Everyone at NASA stood still in shock because they assumed that this asteroid was rocky, and when they touched down on the surface, it just like turned into like dust and dissolved. And they were like, oh no,
wow.
Oh God, where's the spacecraft? And then OSIRIS-REx was fine. Collected its little sample, 250 grams of asteroid dust, and I like to imagine the spacecraft on the surface of the asteroid kind of like a crab, like covering itself up in sand. It's just like, and then it just sucks up all of the little asteroid dust, blasts off from the surface on a 4 billion mile journey back to Earth.
Holy moly. Yep.
parachuted in and just well, here's a little sidebar. The parachute actually deployed way earlier than what NASA wanted. So it's a funny mental image, just all of these scientists just looking up, going like deploy, 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 deploy. And then it deploys. It's like, oh, that's early. And then they just got to wait. They got to wait for it to come down for ages. It touched down. We've taken it back to the Johnson Space Center in Houston. And yeah, it's a world's first. 250 grams, 8.8 ounces of rocks and other material from Bennu. All of these samples will be divided up amongst the scientific community. I'm pretty sure 70% of the sample will remain at the Johnson Space Center. 25% will be shared among 200 scientists across 35 facilities. 4% will go to the Canadian Space Agency, and 0.5% will go to Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA.
So 0.5%. So that does that mean like all the scientists there will just have to crowd around one microscope?
Yeah.
This is very relaxed. This is the only sample we got, boys. It's
I mean, the Johnson Space Center is just keeping most of it.
just hoarding it.
Yeah. 25% shared among 200 scientists across 35 facilities. I mean, we're talking about a literally cup of space dust. It's 250 grams. It's one cup. It's one coffee. One coffee cup of space dust. But yeah, so
what are we going to learn from it, you think?
why did they do that? That's probably what I should get into. One, it is awesome to be able to sample asteroids, but astronomers believe that asteroids are essentially clues to how the universe, well, more locally, the solar system and by extension Earth formed. So as everything is rotating the sun, you know, stuff comes together, forms asteroids, forms these different blocks, and from the samples of those asteroids, we can then break them down into the elements and then basically rewind time to and theorize how this asteroid formed and what state of the solar system was in to make this asteroid form. Most asteroids are billions of years old. So all the stuff and all the materials that are contained within them are extremely valuable to science, because some asteroids that we've discovered contain material that is only on certain planets, so, or even Earth or the moon or something like that. So we get to basically map where this asteroid might have collided here, broke off, and then, you know, a bit of the material of that collision has attached to this asteroid, and then, rewind the solar system's history. That's awesome. Yeah, the astronomers find it extremely valuable to sample these. They describe them as like the history books of the universe. Which is
cool. 4 billion miles away as well. That's crazy.
4 billion.
All that way landed, picked up one cup only.
Yeah, one cup. Oh, and it's actually blasted off to go to another.
Hasn't this asteroid ever done like a coffee run before? You got to get more than one cup.
Yeah, he released the capsule 63,000 miles away from Earth, and it landed safely, which is awesome. It's NASA's first time of doing that. It is not the NASA isn't wearing the crown for asteroid sample collections, as, pardon me, Japan has already done this twice with I'm not sure of the asteroids, but
that's why they're only getting like one speck of dust. Yeah,
no, it's a FU kind of thing. It's like, nah, this is our asteroid. This is our cup of space dust. You can get a little bit. You can only get a little bit. So I'll just read a quote here from Jim Garvin, Chief Scientist of NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, from the landing site during the live broadcast. Touchdown for science. For the first time in history, we brought goodies back from this kind of object. This is so huge, and we're all breathing a big sigh of relief. Congratulations to the entire OSIRIS-REx team. You did it, said a NASA administrator Bill Nelson in a video during live commentary. This mission proves that NASA does big things that inspire us, things that unite us, things that show us that nothing is beyond our reach. So these, and then I write, these samples are extremely valuable to the scientific community as they may give researchers the data they need to further understand the evolution of asteroids and by extension the solar system and Earth. So yeah, it's a cool little massive achievement for NASA there, and I'm sure we're going to continue doing this in the future.
Definitely.
Yeah, very, very good. What else did we have? I've got more space stuff. I got NASA's probe that has flown through a sun eruption.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, so the
just before we jump into that, because there's a just to touch on Starfield briefly.
Oh yeah.
So you can actually fly to stars in Starfield. So there must have been a version of the game where you could just fly anywhere. So
really?
if you just leave it for an hour or whatever, just heading towards the sun, you can actually fly into it. And just leading into this story, somebody captured some of that footage, and when you get close to a star in Starfield, you can actually see solar flares bouncing off and things like that. So there's all this cool detail that isn't actually a part of the quote unquote game, so to speak, but it's just all still there.
I'm gonna do that now because I really like solar eruptions and flares.
It just looks so
yeah, well,
so beautiful and yet so scary at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrifying. That's a perfect segue into the Parker Solar Probe. So this thing is, boy, it is extremely ambitious. It is one of the most interesting spacecrafts, I think, is out there right now collecting data, especially because it can capture video. So if you're just an audio listener, I would advise you to go over to the video section or even the article in the description below, because there is an awesome GIF that was captured by the Parker Solar Probe going through a sun eruption. More technically, they are called coronal mass ejections, which are essentially a wave of plasma charged particles being ejected off the surface of the sun. I like to think of them, and this is probably butchering apology science and all scientists for they're going to hear this, but essentially the sun has pimples and they pop. These are flares. The flares...
warning.
The flares are the popping of the initial pop of the pimple, and all of the pus coming out after it is the coronal mass ejection, and that is the wave of charged particles. Now,
it's just made it sound disgusting.
Yes, but it is you get it now, right? You understand how it works. It doesn't need to be overly complicated. And apologies, scientists that may or may not be listening. But that, for the long and the short of it, that is essentially what's happening. A flare usually occurs because, there's magnetic buildup under the surface of the sun, and then it basically gets taut, and a flare ignites essentially, and then there's a massive flash, and then followed by that is typically a wave of charged particles coming out. Earth, when it is caught in the trajectory of these charged particles, gets smashed with a bunch of solar radiation from the charged particles. They interact with the atmosphere and create the auroras, which is really cool. Now, that happens on Earth regularly. We get hit. There was only one last week that I reported on, and what NASA did was they sent the Parker Solar Probe to orbit the sun at this very unique kind of... Yeah, go on.
Looking at the other GIF, the simulation of the Parker Solar Probe, that little video, it reminds me of the movie Sunshine, where they fly into the sun.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Such a cool movie.
Yeah, who is the lead actor in that?
Was that Cillian Murphy?
Yes, that is Cillian Murphy, yes. Yes, yeah. That is right. But But yes, if you are looking at the video, you can see the Parker solar probe basically flying into the sun. Its orbit is very elliptical, so when it comes close to the sun, it gets closer and closer and closer and closer and closer. Each pass, it is recording new data that is then sent straight back to NASA. And one of the times that it passed through, which was late last year in September, it captured video of it going straight through a coronal mass ejection, one of these waves of charged particles. And you can see just it looks like almost like water vapor when you're at the beach or something like that. And you know, if you're standing near rocks and the water hits the rocks and it pops up into this vapor. But you know, that's searing solar rays that would definitely kill you. Where is this? These charged particles travel at ridiculous speeds with the Parker Solar Probe recording during this event particles accelerating up to 840 miles per second. Recordings such as these are exactly what the Parker Solar Probe was designed for, providing critical data of solar events that are then relayed back to researchers on Earth to study patterns and hopefully learn more about our sun so more accurate weather predictions can be made. Just a quote here from Guillermo Stenborg, an astrophysicist at the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory. These interactions between CMEs and dust were theorized two decades ago, but had not been observed until the Parker Solar Probe viewed a CME act like a vacuum cleaner, clearing the dust out in its path. So basically, this is the first time that NASA has recorded it's a head-on collision with a CME, with a probe, which is cool. I think it's very interesting. Oh yeah, I mean it's what it's designed to do. It's going to do this until it can't, until it's just vaporized, which is I think is awesome. What else did we have on the menu?
Well, hot off the press, I can touch briefly on things happening in the VR space. SteamVR 2.0. So like somebody noticed that a lot of Valve is updating SteamVR, its VR platform for Steam, with all these new features, new UI, new icons, talking about battery indicators and wireless this and wireless that. And I posted that, and then an hour later I got an email from the Valve PR contact saying SteamVR 2.0 is now in beta and we're testing some of the early features for a complete overhaul to the SteamVR platform.
Ooh.
And basically, I guess the other big thing is that the Valve Index headset is now kind of a bit old now. Well, it's a few years old. You know, it was released in 2019. It's it's tethered to your PC. It requires base stations to be set up. There's higher resolution headset displays now, and there are like several rumors and patents for Valve designing a fully wireless VR system or VR headset.
That'd be incredible.
So I think if they're overhauling SteamVR 2 right now and the press release and the update says they're going to be updating it over the next few months with more features and more announcements, that they could be launching something to compete with kind of like the Meta Quest 3, which is out now or coming soon, or the Meta Quest 2, the Meta Quest is the most popular actual VR headset on Steam at the moment. So surely Valve realizes that the reason why is because inside-out tracking, it's only a single cable. When it comes to VR, like the simpler it gets, the popular it'll be.
The weight as well. That's a big one. It's like you don't want this heavy thing on your head for if you're in a 2-hour gaming session.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm still not 100% sold on. I mean, VR is cool, but like small bursts, and I've got a Valve Index. Like, was into it for a bit, but then like I haven't even put it on in like ages.
Oh boy,
it's just too much. Like, because it's just too much of a setup.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it needs to be simplified more. It'll get better. It just needs more iterations. That's all it needs. It needs to be lighter. It needs to not be like tethered. You shouldn't be tethered to anything. And the battery should be good. I don't know. I feel like we're still in the infancy phases of VR, and like now that we're starting to see like
a decade. Yeah.
It'll be a long time.
Yeah, I know, because it has to go like fully wireless, really, for like transmitting video and audio, but then have a large enough battery to last a while, but then not weigh a ton.
Well, the Apple's Vision Pro has a 2.5 hour battery. I can't even watch my favorite movies of all time on there. I can't even watch Lord of the Rings on a plane without it running out. That sucks.
You can watch just half of the extended edition. You can just watch up until they get to the Mines of Moria.
That's it. That's my favorite part. Can't even see Boromir
Everybody's
die.
favorite part. It's like Balrog time, baby, and then some battery indicator.
Yeah, I wonder if battery technology is holding a lot of the mobile industry in all of its forms back.
But it's kind of like you mentioned, like the iPhone 15 Max, right? It's like chewing through the battery. But it's the same with, like, we talked about the Switch 2. We're like, well, you have to factor in battery life, because you can't push these things. Like, things like chips become more powerful, but batteries aren't infinite. So it's either there needs to be like new battery technology, or like, because it all comes down to like capacity as well. Like a big capacity battery is just going to weigh a ton, and it's going to heat up.
Yeah, that's true.
There's just a limitation to what you can do with batteries.
Yeah, we've needed better batteries for a very long time across so many different things. Phones.
That's why you need to just have something that just plugs into your bioelectricity.
Oh, it uses my tears to generate electrolysis, and then it harvests whatever that is. My daily tears. That's how I charge all of my devices. I just cry. I'm like, oh no, it's like fully charged. Everything's good. Is that it for this week's episode? I think we have covered most stuff here. What else do we need to say? If you've sorry, go ahead.
Thanks to XPG for sponsoring this week's episode, and for that fun interview and chat. And also as well, we're doing a giveaway, so keep tuned check out the comments of the show. We got a XPG giveaway for a power supply and a bunch of cool gear.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you very much for listening, guys. We will see you next week. Thank you very much. Have a good...
Catch you next week.
Peace.